Today we're going to be talking about the great European exodus currently happening and what Europeans can do to preserve freedom and prosperity. Europe, once the celebrated beacon of prosperity and innovation, is now grappling with an unprecedented crisis that does not seem to be slowing down anytime soon. Each year, millions of Europeans are leaving their native lands in pursuit of a better life abroad. Why is this happening, you may ask? To tell the truth, this wave of immigration is fueled by a number of factors, including economic stagnation, political instability, social challenges, and the so often forgotten declining population. Let's get real. Economic stagnation and rising living costs in Europe have been an ongoing problem that is yet to be resolved. Europe's economic landscape has been repeatedly shaken by a number of crises. From the 2008 financial crisis meltdown to the recent surge in energy prices, Europe is yet struggling with another crisis. The cost of living in Europe has skyrocketed, especially in major cities, while wages have largely stagnated. Let's get real again. The younger generations, millennials, Generation X, and also Generation Z are facing numerous challenges while living in Europe in the 21st century. The younger generations face real challenges achieving a decent standard of living and consequently remain longer with their parents. And many of them are postponing starting families, and some of them are opting to leave their native countries altogether in pursuit of finding more prosperity, happiness, and a better life abroad. Let's break down the current economic challenges in Europe and rising cost of living. From 2008 to 2012, we had a very large financial crisis that greatly impacted Europe, especially Greece. Greece faced a severe debt crisis that necessitated multiple bailouts from the European Union. The resulting austerity measures, including cuts to public spending and pensions, led to high unemployment rates and plenty of social unrest. Very recently, the energy crisis of 2022 impacted the continent of Europe like no other crisis has in the past. Germany, heavily dependent on Russian gas, faced a severe energy crisis in 2022. The continent of Europe faced a sharp increase in energy prices following the invasion of Ukraine. This certainly disrupted industries, causing production cuts and higher costs for consumers. And even more recently, in 2023, we're looking at more inflationary pressure than we have seen in the past. Inflation rates in the Eurozone exceeded the target set by the EU Central Bank. You see, the EU Central Bank typically has a target of about 2%, which does not always come to fruition. In fact, most of the times, the real inflation rates and the real numbers look quite differently than what is being demonstrated by the EU Central Bank. The recent surge eroded purchasing power, making goods and services much more expensive for middle-class Europeans. Wage stagnation is another huge problem across the European Union, and it isn't just one specific country that's impacted by wage stagnation. In fact, all European Union countries are impacted by this very fact. In countries like France, despite productivity improvements, real wages have failed to keep up with inflation. Needless to say, this has effectively reduced living standards across the European country of France. Job insecurity is another big problem that is plaguing not just the European Union, but also the United Kingdom. The rise of platform-based work, we're talking about food delivery and ride-sharing apps, have created new opportunities for everyday citizens. There's no question about it. However, these apps and these web-based opportunities come with their individual cons. These roles come with very limited security, fewer benefits, and certainly unpredictable income. Europe's housing crisis is affecting every single European looking to rent an apartment in any EU country. A major factor in driving the rising cost of living across the continent of Europe is the housing crisis so many countries are in. In fact, all countries are in. In many cities, property prices have skyrocketed, making life unaffordable for the working class and middle class, pushing them further away from the city to the outskirts of the city where rent is more affordable. But it isn't just about renting an apartment in Europe. Home ownership remains a distant dream for so many working class and middle class Europeans. Many have to save for decades just to show up with the down payment for their home. Home ownership has really become a distant dream, and for many Europeans it will never come to fruition anymore. In Dublin, Ireland, property prices have surged in recent years, making life unaffordable for the average Irish. Young people, especially those with not so much experience and lower salaries, are struggling the most. Berlin, Germany has seen rental prices rise sharply, pushing many residents to the outskirts of the city, where long commutes are necessary. Many are forced to share apartments with other roommates because life has become too expensive in the German capital. In Europe's largest metropolitan, London, things don't look any better at all. Lengthy social housing waiting lists really highlight the problem the lower class is in London. The impact of gentrification cannot be ignored in the British capital. Several areas in London have undergone significant gentrification, transforming into more trendy and expensive neighborhoods that are now preserved for the wealthy and ultra-wealthy. You may think that this shift is not a big deal by any means. However, it has displaced long-term residents for good. One of the biggest catalysts that led to the rising cost of living crisis and lack of job opportunities in Europe is not the housing crisis. It is not what we're seeing recently. It is the outsourcing of manufacturing to the East. That is the real problem. The decline of Europe's manufacturing sector is undeniable. It is present and it is probably irreversible. The outsourcing of manufacturing to the East has transformed the continent of Europe forever. The impact on the continent's economy has been profound. Factory closures and job losses have really created tons of unemployment across the European continent. And of course, all of this is contributing to increased poverty across the major European metropolitans, where life has become very unaffordable, and with the lack of job opportunities for natives and legal residents, more poverty is expected in the coming years. The deindustrialization of the European continent is an undeniable problem that we're feeling right here today. The closure of coal mines in the United Kingdom in the 80s symbolized the broader decline of heavy industry in Europe, resulting in widespread job losses and economic hardship. Italian textile producers face significant challenges from low-cost producers in the East, specifically Bangladesh and Vietnam. The two Asian countries have eroded market share for the Italians. Automation and technological advancements have further taken away market share from major European countries, including Germany and France. In Germany's automotive sector, the rise of automation in production lines has displaced many factory workers, reducing employment opportunities. The high labor costs are another reason why European Union countries are less competitive than ever before. Western European countries like Belgium struggle with manufacturing competitiveness due to the high labor costs compared to Eastern Europe and Asia. Insufficient investment is another reason why the European economy is struggling so much in the 21st century. A lack of substantial investment in research and development, particularly in emerging fields like robotics and advanced materials, has weakened the global competitiveness of Europe and European manufacturing as a whole, especially when compared to nations like Japan and South Korea. The demographic time bomb is real. It is more present than ever before. European birth rates have been steadily declining for decades. resulting in an increasingly aged population. This demographic shift has had profound social and economic consequences, putting immense strain on welfare systems that can be felt very hard in Europe today. As the working age population shrinks, the pressure that's being put on the working class and middle class is greater than ever before. This new dynamic that we're all part of, that we are participating in today, is likely to lead to severe cuts in several areas, including healthcare, education, and pension systems. And of course, we can never ignore national defense. Let's get real again. The birth rates in Europe are scary. Italy has one of the lowest birth rates in Europe, with just 1.2 children per woman. In contrast, a country like Paraguay has a very healthy birth rate of 2.4 children per woman. Argentina has a birth rate of 1.9 children per woman, or Colombia 1.7 children per woman. The aging population is a definite issue that Europe may never be able to overcome. Countries like Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, with a significant part of the population being above 65. This trend places increasingly more pressure on pension systems, healthcare, and education. Labor shortages can be seen across Europe, not just the European Union. In Sweden, the healthcare sector struggles with staffing shortages due to an aging workforce and the lack of younger people in the population. Many young, highly skilled professionals from countries like Poland are immigrating to Western Europe or North America, where they're just looking at much better work opportunities, higher salaries, and more prosperity. Now let's leave all these problems aside. Imagine immigrating to a country that is untouched of these issues. How would you feel, and what would you be doing on a daily basis? What about leaving all the problems behind, including the terrible birth rate, the rising cost of living, the housing crisis, inflation, among so many other problems? Imagine immigrating to a country with a vibrant economy, a growing job sector, and a cost of living that you can afford. What about a country with minimal political polarization, an issue that has been struggling the Western Hemisphere, particularly Western Europe, for so many decades? You see, you can solve a lot of these problems by immigrating to Latin America. Now we wanted to explore the benefits of living some of Latin America's greatest countries. Paraguay is slowly but steadily becoming a top expat destination. Paraguay is home to a territorial tax system where most of your foreign source income is excluded from taxation in Paraguay. Of course, and as always in life, there are contingencies that apply before this rule comes into effect. You must become a legal tax resident of Paraguay, which entails becoming a resident, obtaining either a temporary residency or permanent residency. Paraguay does not require you to invest in the country. Paraguay does not require you to show proof of economic solvency. In fact, Paraguay is one of the only countries in the entire world that lets you obtain residency without proving economic solvency. Paraguay's real estate market is truly accessible to everyone, with housing prices being very affordable for working class and middle class Europeans. Spacious housing in Asunción starting at about 55,000 euros. You can rent an upscale apartment for 400 to 500 a month. There are no property restrictions for foreigners, and taxes on real estate are minimal. A single person can live comfortably in Asunción for about 700 to 1,000 euros a month, covering utilities, rent, insurance, groceries, and even dining out. Affordable healthcare is accessible in Paraguay. Private health insurance starts from 40 to 80 euros a month. Visits to private doctors cost about 20 to 40 euros, while complex surgeries are a heck of a lot more affordable than in the European Union. Veterinary costs are often a fraction of what you're accustomed to when visiting a veterinarian in the European Union. Routine veterinary checkups for pets cost between 15 or 20 euros, and vaccinations are approximately 20 euros per shot. Private bilingual schools with top-tier facilities cost between 3,000 to 6,000 euros annually. Of course, offering international educational standards. Entertainment. You can get cinema tickets for as little as 4 euros, making entertainment very affordable in the country located in the heart of South America. What about business opportunities? Paraguay offers very low corporate tax rates. The profit your company makes in Paraguay will be taxed at 10%. There are some exceptions to this rule. Argentina is in a rebirth phase. Despite past economic struggles, the country is now leveraging off of President Javier Milei and is rebounding with growing opportunities, making Argentina one of the most exciting countries to relocate to in 2025. Argentina is a great place for those looking for beauty, growth, and quality of life in South America. Rent in Buenos Aires for a modern apartment ranges from 600 to 1,200 euros per month, making it nearly 50% more expensive than Paraguay. Monthly living costs in Argentina are roughly 1,200 to 1,500 euros. Healthcare remains affordable in Argentina, with private healthcare plans starting at about 50 euros a month. Doctor visits in private clinics are between 25 to 40 euros. Veterinary costs are about the same as in Paraguay. You're looking at 15 or 20 euros per visit, with pet grooming services starting at about 15 euros. There is quite a lot of business potential in Argentina these days. Argentina's tech, wine, and agricultural sectors are booming with opportunities for Europeans looking to capitalize on the market in South America. Uruguay is known for its peace, safety, and political stability. This small yet prosperous country offers a very high living standard and excellent healthcare, making it an ideal destination for so many expats in the 21st century. Without a doubt, Uruguay is one of the safest countries in whole Latin America. And this is statistically proven. The low crime rate and political stability make Uruguay one of the safest countries to relocate to in the 21st century. Another country I wanted you to consider is El Salvador, a country located in Central America. El Salvador is rapidly transforming into a hub of tech innovation, especially after becoming the first country in the entire world that adopted Bitcoin as a legal tender. This forward-thinking country really offers great opportunities for Europeans. Now, the cost of living in El Salvador is definitely higher than Paraguay and many other Latin American countries. Average monthly living expenses in El Salvador, the Central American country, range from 1,200 to 1,500 euros. Private health insurance is between 25 to 50 euros a month, with doctor visits costing 20 to 30 euros a month. Veterinary consultations are very inexpensive in El Salvador, costing 10 to 15 euros per visit. Private bilingual schools cost about 25 to 5,000 euros annually. The ease of doing business is another reason why you might want to consider relocating to El Salvador for good. El Salvador is home to a very business-friendly environment, currently undergoing lots of reforms. The government of El Salvador is making the country a very attractive destination to invest in, especially in tech, tourism, and agriculture. If you want to become part of the great European exodus and relocate to a much friendlier, low-cost geographic destination in Latin America, then we would love to work with you. Please book a consultation with us today. We would love to help you obtain a residency in one of the Latin American countries discussed in today's video. You should see our website displayed on the screen right now. There's also a link below the video. Please go to nomadelite.com and book a consultation with me personally. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you and I look forward to helping you relocate to Latin America.